In today's lecture, we are going to start with the second unit of data analytics, that is basic data analytics method. The contents that we are going to cover in this particular unit are statistical methods. Now there are various statistical methods. In this particular unit, we are going to discuss the following, that is hypothesis testing, type 1 and type 2 errors, differences of means, Wilcox-Ransom test, and ANOVA. Let us first start with what actually is statistical method for evaluation. Now, what do you mean by statistics is nothing but the anything which is related with the numbers, the actual values. When you are dealing with values, you call it as a statistics. Now we know that we have also discussed the earlier unit we have discussed the method of visualization. So that what we are trying to say here, the first thing is that though visualization is useful tool for data exploration and presentation, though we have found that visualization is a useful tool, still statistics has been very important throughout the complete life cycle of data analysis. Now why statistics has been considered as an important aspect throughout the life cycle of data analysis, then the reason for that is they provide reasoning for the output of the model. When you are saying that my output of my model is such and such, you should have to justify that output, and to justify that output your statistics will help you. So even if your output has been achieved or your objective has been achieved, you cannot say it for sure that my objective is achieved until and unless I have the supporting statistical data. So just guessing is not sufficient. You should also have the statistical data to say that okay, I have came to this and this solution based on this particular data. Only then whatever is your result will stand as in the stakeholders or anyone else to whom you are showing your work, or to whom or the person who is actually judging your model will be satisfied. Okay, he is having the relevant data through which we can come to a conclusion that okay, this and this has been proved. So basically it works as a theorem. So whenever we have a hypothesis, we write some theorem, and at the end of that theorem we say okay, this is possible or this is not possible. And to justify that statement that whether this is possible or whether this is not possible, the supporting data that you have is basically called as what? Statistics. So we all know that though visualization is good, it is important for data exploration and presentation, still statistic always holds a very important place in data analytics life cycle. Let us first start with the first concept of this statistical method of evaluation, that is hypothesis testing. Now what is hypothesis? A definition says a hypothesis is an unproven proposition or supposition that tentatively explains certain facts or phenomena. Basically what you are trying to say is when you are stating an hypothesis is supposed to be unproven. You cannot state a statement which is already proven as an hypothesis. I cannot state a statement which is already proven. Someone else has already proven that statement, that this is the fact, this is correct. I cannot state the same statement as an hypothesis. So the first thing while stating the hypothesis is it should be unproven. Second, it is proposition or supposition. Proposition or supposition means when you propose something, that means you are saying that okay, this thing is possible. You are proposing that okay, this this thing can be possible. This is a proposition. And when you are saying the supposition, you can say that okay, because of something that has happened earlier, you are supporting your statement as okay, because this and this has happened, my conclusion is so and so. That is the supposition statement. So either you can propose something different or you can suppose it. Supposition is basically based on something. So both either way you can state your hypothesis, but only thing is you need to care that the hypothesis should be unproven statement. Then there are two different parts of hypothesis. So one is called as the null hypothesis and the second one is called as an alternative hypothesis. Whenever you are going through data analysis, it is never sufficient to just state one hypothesis, but there are always two hypotheses. One hypothesis is going to be the null hypothesis and the second one is going to be an alternative hypothesis. This is compulsory part. You cannot say that okay, I only want to design a null hypothesis. This will not happen. And why it will not happen? The reason for that is we have to first understand what is null hypothesis and what is alternative hypothesis. So what is null hypothesis? Null hypothesis is a statement about status quo. Status quo as in any change from what has been thought to be true will be due entirely to random sampling errors. Basically, what does null hypothesis means? The null hypothesis is simply a statement. It is a simple statement. You can state it in any ways. Any ways as in, I can have an example of null hypothesis is the earth is flat. I can say that this is my null hypothesis. The earth is flat. The earth is flat. This statement is showing me what? It is showing me a random sampling. Random sampling as in, now to discover that earth is flat, I can take multiple coordinates. I can take various latitude and longitude positions on the earth, and I can try to justify how those 2 points are at the same level. So my random sampling, I am going to do this process. So that is what? Null hypothesis. Secondly, I have an alternative hypothesis. Now what is alternative hypothesis? Once you have framed your null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis is very much simple. What does an alternative hypothesis do? Alternative hypothesis is supposed to be exactly the opposite of your null hypothesis. Exactly opposite. The word exactly here is very, very important. Why? The reason for that is, in data analytics or in mathematics, many of the time what we say, that if A is not equal to B, by supposition B is also not equal to A. Similarly, in a theorem it is proven that when A is equals to B and B is equals to C, A is equal to C. We all know this. So when they have proved two things, third thing is already supposed. Okay, when A is equal to B and B is equal to C, they have already assumed that A is also equal to C. But in data analytics, this thing will not happen. What we want here in alternate hypothesis is, when your null hypothesis is going to become true, by default your alternate hypothesis is going to become false. As well as when my null hypothesis is going to become false, my alternate hypothesis is going to be considered to be true. So while framing your null hypothesis as well as alternate hypothesis, you need to take care that both are exactly the opposite of each other. So if I am saying that earth is flat is my null hypothesis, then my alternate hypothesis will be the earth is round. So the consideration of null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis is used so that if my null hypothesis is proven to be wrong, by default my alternative hypothesis is proven to be right. And if my null hypothesis is proven to be correct, then by default my alternative hypothesis is considered to be wrong. So you need to frame this null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis in a very proper and secured manner. We are going to do a DUPET study about the hypothesis testing. Now how actually this hypothesis testing is done. In this particular chart we can see that how the steps are being followed to check the hypothesis testing. First of all, formulate H0 and H1. H0 is null hypothesis and H1 is considered as your alternative hypothesis. Next is select appropriate test. You have to select appropriate test by which your hypothesis will either be proven or will be disproven. You cannot just take randomly any test, but a proper test should be selected. Next is choose the level of significance alpha. What do you mean by level of significance? See, while deciding whether my test has been proven or whether it has been disproven, I need to take some level as in some milestone or some value which is to be considered as the significance. Now what is significance in that? Suppose I have to formulate some hypothesis related to the concept that men tend to buy too many electronic products than the women. Okay, this is suppose my hypothesis, null hypothesis is stated. What does my null hypothesis state? That the men tend to buy more electronic gadgets than the women. So my alternate hypothesis will be that no, both men and women tend to have equal tendency towards buying electronic gadgets. So this will be my alternate hypothesis. Now once I have said that okay, whatever is the tendency, I have to decide the significance level. When I will say that men are having more tendency, whenever I consider that okay 50%. So whatever was my total sales, out of that total sales, if more than 50% are the male buyers, then I will say okay, male have more tendency of buying electronic gadgets. If it is opposite, if it is less than 50%, then I will say that my alternate hypothesis is true. So you can consider both the things, that is either your null hypothesis is correct or your alternate hypothesis is correct. But to decide this, you have to decide the significance level, that is nothing but the alpha, that after crossing this you will come to a conclusion, either accept it or reject it, but you will come to conclusion after it has crossed this. If it is crossing the significance level, it will be accepted. If it is not crossing the significance level, it will be rejected. As simple as that. Next is collect data and calculate test statistics. Now you have to proceed with the test. So you will collect all the data required and you will calculate the test statistics. After calculating the test statistic, there are two things that you have to do. First one is determine probability associated with test statistics. You need to determine the probability that is associated with your test statistics. If the total number of customers who have bought that is in lakhs, you cannot sit and actually distinguish, or you cannot sit and actually consider whole data set. The amount of male and female candidates buying the electronic product should be considered only for like 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. You cannot just go on continuing to the history of e-commerce. So you have to take some probability, that from when you have considered what is the probability that particular type of sample data has been purchasing that particular product. So you have to consider the probability of whatever statistics you have considered. Similarly, determine critical value of test statistic. Critical value is in, you should satisfy at least that critical value to say that this test is successful. If I am saying that I am going to perform certain test, then I should decide some critical value. Okay, I should have minimum of this number of candidates buying the product, or data of these many number of candidates buying the product, to say whether the tendency of male candidates is more or female candidates is more. I cannot just go and check 10 products and say okay, yes, the tendency of male candidates is more than the female candidates. That would be unjust. So you need to decide the critical value of test statistics. Then next, compare with level of significance alpha. Once you have determined the probability, you have to compare that with your level of significance. If your level of significance is still high, you can either bring your level of significance a bit low, or you can increase your probability. You can do some take some measures to increase the probability. Both ways it is possible. And here you can do what? Determine if your test probability falls into rejection or non-rejection region. So if my probability is very low, then the significance, then it will fall in the rejection, and if it is not that low, if it is okay, then it will fall in the non-rejection region. Once you have done all this, based on this, whether it falls in rejection or whether it falls in non-rejection, you will decide what? Reject or do not reject your null hypothesis. And see, always when you are running this test, you are always considering the null hypothesis. So either you reject your null hypothesis or you accept your null hypothesis. You never directly go to your alternate hypothesis and accept the alternate hypothesis. When your null hypothesis is rejected, it by default means that your alternate hypothesis is accepted. So it should be very clear that how you design your null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. And finally, draw marking research conclusions. So once you have got your result, you can draw the research conclusions whatever are required. Next, here we are to study null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis in detail. For example, they have given highly dogmatic customers will be less likely to try a new product than less dogmatic customers. See, this is an example which they have given. For this you have to frame the hypothesis. This is not the hypothesis, but this is an example that they have given, based on which, or to accept or reject this, you have to state a hypothesis. Dogmatic customers means those who are thinking in their own way. They don't care about what the world is saying. They don't care about what the reviewers are saying. They don't care about anybody else. They are just caring about themselves. If they feel that this product is good, they are definitely going to buy that product. Those type of customers are called as what? Dogmatic customers. So highly dogmatic customers will be less likely to try new product than less dogmatic consumers. So what you are trying to say, the people who are thinking only about themselves, or they think about themselves before buying any product. They don't come into consideration of what was the review for that product, how was the review of that on Quora or something like that. They don't do so much of research. What they want and what they feel right is right. That is what their thought process is. So when this is an example, what my null hypothesis is, the null hypothesis H0 is where there is no difference between high dogmatic and low dogmatic in their willingness to try an innovation. This was my null hypothesis, where I am saying that whether the customer may be a highly dogmatic customer or the low dogmatic customer, still there is no difference in their willingness to try new product. This is my null hypothesis. So if my null hypothesis is going to be rejected, then what will be my alternate hypothesis that will be accepted? Then the alternate hypothesis H1 is where there is a difference between high and low dogmatic. Obviously, if in null hypothesis I am saying that there is no difference in whether the customer is highly dogmatic or low dogmatic. So in my alternate hypothesis I am saying what? There is a difference. So here I have highlighted the word no. There is no difference. And alternate hypothesis, there is a difference. Okay. So here what we are trying to say is that whenever your null hypothesis is rejected, obviously your alternate hypothesis is going to be accepted, and it should be in that manner only. Now what is the purpose of hypothesis testing? The purpose of hypothesis testing is to determine which of the two hypotheses is correct. Whether the null hypothesis is correct or whether the alternate hypothesis is correct. This should be done in your hypothesis testing. Next, the hypothesis testing procedure. Basically in the flowchart earlier we have already seen this procedure. We will just do a review of this process. The process is as follows. Determine a statistical hypothesis. Imagine what sampling distribution would be if this is a true statement. So if this statement is true, what type of sampling data you will require? Fine. Secondly, take an actual sample and calculate sample mean. Then determine if the deviation between the obtained value and expected value of sample mean could have occurred by chance alone. You need to consider both the things. The data sample that you require to test your statement is true, and the data sample that you have got. If these two data samples are far away, far different from each other, that is what? They have a lot of deviation, then you need to identify whether this deviation is by chance or your source of data is wrong. So you need to decide that whether it is by chance or this is the random sampling that you have done. Okay. Set a standard for determining if we reject the null or accept the alternative. That is the significance level. You need to decide a significance level above which you will consider that this null hypothesis is accepted or whether it is rejected. Then significance level, that was the last statement in the earlier slide. Significance level is a critical probability in choosing between the null and alternative hypothesis. Obviously, you have to decide one single value that will decide whether your hypothesis is accepted or whether it is rejected. So deciding the significance value is a very critical thing, or is a very critical probability. Okay. Next is assuming the null is true. If your null hypothesis, whatever you assumed, is true, if the probability of occurrence of the observed data is smaller than the significance level, then the data suggested that the null should be rejected. If whatever probability of data you have observed, if it is less than, smaller than the significance level, then whatever data suggested that the null value should be rejected. That means your null hypothesis should be rejected. And to say that my null hypothesis is being rejected, there should be evidence supporting the contradiction of null. I should have statistical evidence showing that how my null hypothesis is rejected, for which we are doing all these statistical methods of evaluation. Okay, this was the first thing in the contents. The second is what? Type 1 and type 2 errors. Once we have gone through the hypothesis testing, the next concept is type 1 and type 2 errors. Now what is type 1 error and type 2 error? We will understand that by taking into consideration the hypothesis. So what is hypothesis? Hypothesis testing may result in two types of errors. When you have done the hypothesis testing, there are chances that you will get two types of errors depending upon whether the test accepts or rejects the null hypothesis. If your test accepts the null hypothesis, then also there are chances that you are going to generate one error. And if your test rejects the hypothesis, then also there are chances that one of the error has been occurred. So what are these type 1 and type 2 errors? The type 1 error is what? Type 1 error is an error caused by rejecting the null hypothesis even when it is true. So if my null hypothesis is actually true, but still because of my statistical evaluation it is being rejected, then that is generating what? Type 1 error. Type 1 error is basically when your hypothesis is true but it is being rejected. That is my type 1 error. And what is type 2 error? Type 2 error is the acceptance of null hypothesis when the null hypothesis is false. Then type 2 is what? If my null hypothesis is actually false but still it got accepted by my statistical operations, then that is what? Type 2 error. To understand this type 1 and type 2 error, we can take an example. Let us consider that there is some patient has went into some laboratory for performing certain test. So when we will say that type 1 error has occurred, suppose that a test that shows the example of type 1 error is that, let us consider that a test that shows a patient to have a disease when in fact the patient does not have the disease. That is the type 1 error. So if my test is showing that yes, the patient is having the disease, but in actuality my patient does not have that disease, that is the type 1 error, where my actual data, that is my what you can say, when my null hypothesis is true, at that time my that means my patient does not have any disease, but still in his test the patient is showing some disease. That time it is the type 1 error. Similarly, what will be the type 2 error? Type 2 error is what? A blood test failing to detect the disease. It was designated to detect in the patient who really has that disease. Means what? Actually my patient has that disease. So my type, whatever was my null hypothesis, is false because my patient is having that disease. But still it was accepted. Still we consider that the patient did not have any disease. Then that is what? Type 2 error. The next thing is called as what? T-distribution. Now why do we require this T-distribution? This T-distribution is required when you are actually performing the statistical evaluation, or whenever you are performing this hypothesis testing, you are basically supposed to do the T-distribution. T-distribution is nothing but a graph. We are going to look at what is T-distribution and how the T-distribution graphs are there in the later examples. But here we are supposed to understand what actually a T-distribution is. So a T-distribution is a symmetric, that is a bell-shaped distribution that is dependent on sample size. So the bigger the sample size, the bigger the bell shape of your bell is going to be. Okay. It has what? It has a mean of 0. Mean means what? The average of various data samples divided by the total value of samples, that is 0, and a standard deviation equal to 1. Secondly, what it has? The shape of the t-distribution is influenced by its degree of freedom. Now what is this degree of freedom? Then degree of freedom indicates the number of independent values that can vary in analysis without breaking any constraints. Means what? It is not necessary that whatever basic data that I am considering is always going to be the same. I may change some values. So we are doing data conditioning and all now. So in that data conditioning we may condition some data, but after conditioning that data, how much of such data I can condition without breaking any constraints, that is the what? Degree of freedom. The normal t-distribution graph is shown over here. It is like a bell-like structure. Here you can see. So this blue one, this topmost, is considered as the normal. So based on your whatever sampling data, this is the normal one. And based on what value of t you are assuming, okay, that if n is equal to 1, then this the topmost orange structure is being considered. Then if n is equals to 2, then this red line is considered, and if n is equal to 5, then this another one blue line is considered. So there it is showing the normal as well as when my n values are 1, 2 and 5. All these three different shapes are shown. In each and every shape, the basic structure of t-distribution is always a bell shape. Okay. And here you can see that here it starts with 0. So what we have seen earlier, that it has a mean of 0 and standard deviation equals to 1. Okay. Next is parametric versus hypothesis testing. Now what is parametric statistics? Parametric statistics are used when the data are interval or ratio scaled, when the sample size is large, and when the data are drawn from a population with a normal distribution. That is called as parametric statistics. And there is another one which is called as non-parametric statistics. What is non-parametric statistics? Are used when the data are either nominal or ordinal. See, a parametric statistics when it is used when you are having a very large size of sample, when your sample size is going to be very large, at that time we use the parametric statistics. Parametric statistics as in what? See, when I have to consider something which is dependent on each and every person in that sample size, I have to use a parametric statistics. And when I have some peculiar persons whose data I have to consider and not the entire large sample, I have certain peoples whose data I have to consider, that time that is called as the non-parametric statistics. Okay, we will continue from this in the next video.